Hi, George here with a project I did a few years ago over on my previous channel. This is a basic photo merge project, and it consists of 4 basic parts. We have the background back in there, which looks like that. Then we have this deer in front, possibly a reindeer, and this girl over here with this fur hood. And then there's also a light streak across the top right here. Let me show you that light streak. There it is. Pretty straightforward. And this project was mostly about making selections. Difficult selection around this deer and the antler, and very difficult around the fur here on this fur hood. So it was basically a how to do selections video project. And I wanted to see how much easier this is nowadays if we use AI tools to do some of this work for us. And for that, we'll be using this video's sponsor, which is Aiarty Image Matting, which is a great AI tool designed specifically for making mats and layer masks. Okay, let's take a look at our parts in here. We'll be using this image here as our background image. We'll start off with this one. I'll put that right there. Everything else goes on top of this. We'll be bringing in the deer right here. And also, of course, bringing in this girl over here, which we'll be taking off of this bridge scene, and then adding those into our basic winter scene. Okay, let's go over to Aiarty Image Matting, where I'll remove the backgrounds for these two using AI. Once our backgrounds are removed, we can then bring those easily over here into our main project and then complete the photo merge. Okay, here we are in the Aiarty Image Matting program. If you want to find out more about this program before we delve into this, I've done a full video review, and I'll put a link for that in the description. If you're interested in getting the Aiarty Image Matting program, I'll put links for that at the top of the description. Click on this arrow in the middle, and we'll select our images. I have them saved right here, this one and that one. I'll take both of these in. Choose Open. Here we go. And the first thing we have to do is allow Image Matting to find the subject. Notice over here we have several options. First off, we can choose the AI model, and I'll go with the edge clear. We can come in and do a few things such as enhance the image in here with AI Enhance, and even upscale if we want to, up to 2 times. I'll leave that alone. We can select a specific area, or we can try using the automatic AI detection. I'll give this one a try first. If this doesn't work, then we'll zero in using the manual area. Let's go ahead and we'll start this. And notice I just found 2 things here, plant and animal. I want to work with the animal. And there we go. It has found that area for us. We can also refine, such as smooth processing, outline emphasis, balance, brightness, and so forth. We'll leave all that stuff alone. Let's now come down here and do the inference. Click on Start. And this is where the Aiarty Image Matting loads in the AI model and does the basic matting for us. And then we'll go see how that looks. Once we see how this looks, we either can make some adjustments on this, or we can go ahead and then export this. You can do a single export or a batch export. It's up to you. There we go. Notice over here we have a few effects we can try. Background, feathering, blur, black and white, and pixelation. I'll leave all those alone. We're looking at just the remove background right now. And let's see how this did. And just an absolutely beautiful job in here, as you can see. We can play with our mask over here. We can come in and actually adjust the mask a little bit up here. If you watch right down around the legs, you can see how that changes in there. We can move this around and try to get the best mask we possibly can. Looks like right around in here. Click right here for the default position. This may need a little bit of cleanup right in there, but that's okay. We can do that. But this saved us a lot of time, as you can see. And we'll export this one and then do our second one. There we go. That's done. Notice how this exports in here with the mask separate. That's going to allow us to do some masking on this. What I really want is this piece right there. We'll save this out into the default save folder for this program. You can change the output if you want to. Down here it says Export Settings. You can choose to use a specific path if you want right here. Just browse to your path. But I'll leave it at the default. That's fine. Okay, switch over here to this image. And same thing, we'll go over here to Area Select. And let's try the AI detection first. Human face and human. Human face would just be this area right here. And I'm going to be doing human. Now, if we wanted to do these as a batch export, we would choose that right here, add those to a batch export. But since we only have just 2 images, I'll do this individually. And let's go ahead and click on Start and let this do the basic matting for us. We'll then take a look at that and see how that looks. And again, what we're looking for here is that matte, which we can use over in Photoshop Elements. There we go. There's our finished. Looks really good. You can see here it is before and after. Did a real nice job on that. including keeping all these little fine hairs in here. When I did this manually a few years ago, I had to come back in and add in some hairs using some tricky techniques to do that. I spent about 20 minutes actually on that, and this took just a couple of minutes here. Now I can come in, of course, and check our alpha mask. We can move this around a little bit and see if we can improve that or not. I think that its position was just exactly right. I'll just put that back to there. So I can go ahead then and export this out, come down to single export, and there we go. Notice that this comes into its own folder up here inside of its default folder. What we want is that layer mask right there. We'll be using the layer mask. Okay, switch over to Photoshop Elements and put this project together. And here we go. There's our background layer back in here. Here's the reindeer layer, and here's our girl layer right here. Let's now bring in our layer masks. Here's the first one. The reason why I'm bringing in the layer mask and not bringing in the mask image is because I want to be able to actually adjust this just in case it needs some tweaking. So I'm just going to pull this in like that, just as a floating layer. And let's do the same thing for the girl image right here. There's the save folder, and I want that layer mask. Just drag that in like this. Now we have all these pieces in here. I'll take this and drag it into this image right here. There we go. Let's just double check that. That's good. Get that out of the way. Same thing here. Drag this in. Notice that it says that this is a different depth. That's because the images inside of Photoshop Elements are at 8-bit depth, and the images coming out of Aiarty are 16-bit. That's okay. It's automatically adjusted when we bring that in, and that's fine. And since I'm dragging that right in, it should be exactly on top. So let's just double check that. I'll bring the opacity down, and it's perfectly aligned for us already. That's really nice. Let's now convert this over into a layer mask. Let's hold the Control key down, click on that layer right here, and that selects the whole thing. And let's do Control C to copy that. I'm now going to hide that. Then to our background layer. Now I don't want this to be a background layer any longer, so I'll double click on that. That converts it to a regular layer. There we go. Let's add a layer mask onto this, just by hitting that layer mask button. Now hold the Alt key down, click into the layer mask. Use Control D to deselect, and then Control V to paste. And that pastes this image onto the layer mask position. Let's now go over here to the image itself, click off that layer and back on again, and that removes that red. So we've now used that as a layer mask in here. Control D to deselect again. And the reason why I did that is I can now come in and actually do a little bit of cleanup in here. This little spot right down here, for instance. This is a little bit of a gray tone in here. So if I paint in black, it's going to hide that. If I paint in white, it's going to show that. Let me just show that real fast. Let's make sure we're on the layer mask side. Double click. Set our colors to white in the foreground, and then paint in here. And notice that white shows. I'll do Control Z to undo that. And then black is going to hide like that, Control Z. So we can use that trick to clean this out. I'll just bring the brush size down using the left square bracket key, and then just carefully come in here and we'll just paint this bit out right there. Just a little bit of cleanup on the mask. So it's just this little bit in here. We're doing some manual instead of doing the whole mask by hand, which is what I did last time I did this project. Okay, that looks really nice. I think that's good. Control 0 to fit screen. So this is all set to go. I can now take this, just bring it down here. Now, if you don't have floating windows like this, it's easy to set up. Go up here to the Edit menu, come down to Preferences right here and General. And it's that option right there, Allow Floating Documents in Advanced Mode. If you're in an earlier version of Elements, this will be saying Allow Floating Documents in Expert Mode. Make sure that's checked, and OK, and you're all set. Okay, let's go back over here to the Move tool, and I'm just going to take this layer, drag it over here, and there's our floating deer right there. That easy. Okay, we're done with this. If you want to save this, so you can go ahead and save it. If I click on Save, File, Save, because this has layers and a layer mask, it's going to automatically convert this over into, as you can see down here, a Photoshop Elements file. So I'll go ahead and I'll just save that, and then close that out. Okay, so now do the exact same thing over here. Again, this is already aligned for us. Let's just take care of this background first. Double click on the name, choose OK. It's now just a regular layer. Go up here to Layer 1, hold the Control key down, click into that area. That selects that whole layer. Control C to copy, Control D to deselect. Come down to Layer 2, I'll just hide that one. Add a layer mask in here, Alt click onto the layer mask, Control V to paste, and then Control D to deselect again. We've now added this in as a layer mask. Go back over to this layer, click off that layer and back on again, and that's now taken care of. Beautiful job. It's that fast and easy to make these layer masks. Let's now just drag her over here. There we go. We brought her in. Same thing, I'm going to save this file out, File and Save. Let it be converted into a Photoshop Elements file. Choose Save. We have that just in case I need to go back to that in the future. Okay, so I have our pieces. Right there looks pretty good. Let's go over here to the reindeer there and bring the reindeer down a bit in the background, kind of like that. I don't like that dark tree there. I don't want it on the edge, so either further over here so it's away from the deer or cover that. Either way, I think covering it is a bit better. Now our values are off a little bit in here. So let's adjust our values. And for that, go up here to Layer, come down to New Adjustment Layer and Levels and use Previous Layer. Choose OK. And I'm going to push this to the right a little bit. It's going to be darkening that image down. And we can tweak with the contrast. I think around here it looks pretty natural. That's what you want to have here, is just a natural look on this. I don't want too much contrast because the background is really not that contrasty. You can actually lower your contrast down with the output levels. Bring the black down and it lowers or takes off some of the black in there. You can bring the white down a little bit and just bring down the contrast a bit. Not too much, just a little touch like that, just a slight adjustment. I think she's looking okay. The only thing I would change on her possibly is that she's a lot warmer in tone than the background is. So I want to maybe bring her tone down a bit. Let's go up to her layer up here. Go up to Layer, Adjustment Layer, Photo Filter. Again, check that checkbox, choose OK. And what I want is a cooling filter. That appears to be about the right coloration. Let's just bring the density down a little bit on that. Notice that this comes in on its own layer with its own layer mask. So I'm getting too much cooling around the edge here. It's a bit too blue up in there. We can fix that easily enough. Let's just see how we look. Here's before and after. So that just cooled her down just a bit. It makes her blend into the picture better. Okay, I want to cut down some of that blue halo we have up in here. And that's again on this layer mask. Go over to the paintbrush. Now for this, you want to have a soft edge brush. And I'll find a good size for that. Maybe this 100 brush. That's pretty good. You want that in black. And then just come in here, just kind of paint up against that edge. There we go. And we'll just knock that blue down just on the edge. Okay, last thing we need to do in here is to bring in that light streak I wanted to have right across the light spots up in here on the branches. This is easy to do. Come down to your background layer. And let's make a new layer right here. New layer. There we go. Go up here to the polygonal lasso tool. And I'm going to make a polygonal shape just kind of like this. Just kind of a wedge shape like this. Here, here, and then over like this. And down a bit like that. Notice how this will actually be in behind her because it's a lower layer. Let's fill this with white. Paint bucket and fill. There we are. Control D to deselect. Let's now soften the edges up on that layer. Go up here to Filter. Come down to Blur and Gaussian Blur. And bring this up to get a real nice soft edge on that. Kind of like that, so it's real soft. And then go up here to Blend Modes. And come down to Overlay. There we go. And then bring the opacity down about halfway. So somewhere right around in here. Just get that nice little streak. It's a bit of a sunlight streak coming through. And let's take a look at the values in our girl here. Click on that layer, layer, adjustment layer, and levels. Again, make sure that we have that checked. Choose OK. And I think it's a bit more black in this case. Since she's the foreground subject, I want to have her a bit more contrasty than the background. So that's mostly going to be on the black in this one. Kind of like that. And I think that's looking pretty good. I think I'll pull her down just a little bit. Let's just come down to this layer here. Let's make sure the auto select layer is off. There we are. I'm going to bring her down just a bit, just for balance sake. I think she's a bit too high. I think that's better. There we go. Much easier this way by not having spent all of my time doing that matting and then just use the AI image matting to do that for me to get that black and white matte, which I can then use as a layer mask very easily. And it saves a lot of time on these much more difficult projects, especially all those little fine hairs coming here off of this hood. You can see them especially right down through here, right up over in here. Made this job much, much faster and easier. If you want to find out more about the Aiarty Image Matting program, I have links for that at the top of the description. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up and also make sure you subscribe. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss any videos in the future. And I'll see you next time.